Let's get started. The Wizard of Oz. Now, The Wizard of Oz came out in 1939, which, oh boy, was the single greatest year in American cinema. That year alone, you had classics Gone with the Wind, Of Mice and Men, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and, of course, The Wizard of Oz. Those are all classics in their own right. But what I want to talk about is what makes The Wizard of Oz so timeless that over 80 years later, parents still show it to their kids. I think it might have something to do with this dedication at the start, but I'll get back to that. But let's talk about the story. While the film takes many liberties with the source material, they both follow your basic road trip format. We have a main character who leaves her boring home in search of, like any good Disney princess, more. Then she gets swept up in a magical adventure, meets some colorful characters, learns a lesson, and returns home all the wiser for it. Nothing all that new or innovative, but where Oz succeeds is how it tells that story, mostly through the color and the music. The juxtaposition of the sepia brown color of Kansas and the technicolor of Oz is genius, and you instantly feel the magic and wonder. Just look at this transition. But the use of color doesn't stop there. The magical shoes Dorothy wears were originally silver in the source material, but were changed to ruby red to take advantage of the Technicolor. And everything else, from the yellow brick road, Dorothy's blue dress, the Emerald City, the horse of a different color, which wasn't in the book, the poppies, the witch's black clothes and green skin, Glinda's pink dress, even the flying monkey's blue faces takes advantage of color. Now, the music also helps create a feeling of magic in Oz. And it's funny that the songs are so well known that whenever I talk about musicals, and of course I bring up Oz, people forget to count it. Why not? It's just as much a musical as Singin' in the Rain or Grease, but it's almost never counted with those. I think it's because, unlike most other movie musicals, the songs are 100% story-based and are kept short and simple. Take probably the most famous song in the movie, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. This is your basic I Want song. But note two things. First, this is the only song that ever comes from Kansas. Most of the main characters, in their Kansas forms at least, have already been introduced non-musically. And this song is only there because it's technically not about Kansas. It's about Oz, the land of color and music. Second, it's short, clocking in barely over 2 minutes, which is impressive considering most Disney I Want songs clock in between 3 to 4 minutes. Looking at you, let go with your 4-minute runtime. But that's it for Kansas. But as soon as we get to Oz, we're greeted with Come Out, Ding Dong the Witch is Dead, Follow the Yellow Brick Road, and You're Off to See the Wizard. 4 songs. And we haven't even left Munchkin Land yet. That's a lot of music in a short amount of time. But it helps to contrast Oz from Kansas. From here on, the musical pace slows down, but not by much, and the tunes get a lot more deliberate. The next 3 scenes serve to introduce Dorothy's companions, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, the Lion. Here they each get their If I Only Had a song, followed by a reprise of We're Off to See the Wizard. Now, this use of those songs helps unify the group as a whole, but also kind of pushes Dorothy aside in that what she wants is very different from what her companions want. Because originally her main want song was, I want to go to Oz, I want to get away, I want more, I want to go. But as soon as she gets to Oz, it changes. Now she wants home. So her I Want song isn't really relevant anymore, but she doesn't get a chance to really sing it, which again keeps her at odds with her companions. But what Dorothy wants is much more internal. But I know what you're thinking. Okay, so the color and music make it sound and look pretty. But what about the effects? There's no way special effects from the 30s can really hold up today. That was 80 years ago. And to that I say, you're right. And wrong. Oz is full of special effects, and they don't all work. Even as a little kid, like 2 years old, I was never convinced that those animals were ever alive. And the animatronic Dorothy legs are laughably bad. Like, just look at those legs kick. And just, oh boy, that's a square butt on the lion, I'll tell you that. He's got to see a doctor. Oh my gosh. Fun fact, in order to get the tail on the lion to move, they actually stuck a motor in the butt of his suit, and that's why he has a square butt in this scene. So yeah, there are some incredibly lame effects, but there are just as many amazing ones. For instance, comment below and tell me where the burlap ends and makeup begins. I've seen this movie more times than I care to admit, and I still can't tell. Or how about that tornado? The way it looms in the background and slowly gets closer with straw and dust flying everywhere. Even after Twister, I have yet to see a more terrifying tornado effect. And actually, now that I think about it, all the makeup effects in this movie really hold up. The characters' designs either give them a compassionate look or a threatening one, and every one of them is iconic. Iconic. That is probably the best word to describe this movie. From the music, to the effects, to the characters, it all strikes just the right balance to create a world so distinctly its own, even with the hokey effects and acting at times, that families have come back to it time and again. Oh, and remember that dedication? Well, here's what it says. For nearly 40 years, this story has given faithful service to the young at heart, and time has been powerless to put its kindly philosophy out of fashion. To those of you who have been faithful to it in return, and to the young at heart, we dedicate this picture. There is something about The Wizard of Oz that is timeless. Why 120 years later is it still so well known? Sadly, I don't think it's the book. Now, the book is great. The book has some really good writing and really good metaphor, and it's substantially more mature than the movie. But I think the reason it's endured so long is because of the film. There's something magical about this movie. It's the use of color, the effects, the characters, just the general nostalgic feel for it that I think all of America has. This movie came out in 1939. Like I said, best year of American filmmaking. We were kind of getting out of the Great Depression, but only a couple years later, we were plunged back into war. And I think the people that saw this saw it as an escape. And it is just as much an escape now as it was then. It's a timeless fairy tale. Cheesy? Yes. Hokey? Yes. Do some of the effects not age particularly well? Of course. There is no perfectly timeless movie, but the story this tells is told in the best way possible for the time, and even today. We've had sequels, we've had more Oz stuff, but none of it holds a candle to the original. It is such a masterpiece. So, I'm gonna leave you guys with a question. What is your favorite movie? Now, it could be a movie from childhood, it could be a movie that just came out, but what is it? I'm curious. You can learn a lot from someone about their favorite movie. For me, it's The Wizard of Oz. You know I love it. I know I love it. I can't pick any other movie to top it. It just hits that right spot in my heart. And no other movie does that for me. So be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content. I'm going to be putting out more videos every Friday. Let's see how this goes. There's so many movies I want to talk about. Let's see if we can get to a fraction of them. This is Colby. This was my nerdy talk, and I'll see you in the next video.